the last few years, Florida was the #1 place people moved to. And the steam of moving to Florida, though it's starting to slow down because there was just such a mad rush during COVID, but still people are preferring Florida over a lot of other places such as Georgia and South Carolina, which in theory are a lot more affordable to live in. And so in this video, we're going to talk about all the reasons why people are preferring Florida over South Carolina and Georgia and lots of other states across the United States. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name is Katrin.pfitzenreiter. I'm a real estate agent in Sarasota and Manatee County. If you enjoy anything Florida related, especially real estate related information, think about subscribing to this channel. Like this video, it does help out the performance of this video. And without further ado, we're going to get right into this video. Before we start talking about all the reasons why people are preferring Florida, it's important to note where people are actually moving from. And so the top 4 places that people are moving from are New York, Georgia, California, and New Jersey. And so keep that in mind because it's really going to help explain some of the decisions that people are making along the way when choosing Florida, especially coming from these 4 different states. One of the main reasons why people are moving to Florida is because where they're living at, the real estate prices are way higher than they're here. Now, as a Floridian, I can attest to the fact that the prices here have skyrocketed over the last 2 to 3 years. In some areas in Florida, it has even doubled. But for those people who move in from California, for example, or New York City, prices here are still way more affordable. And so what we're going to do now is look at one of the charts that I pulled here, and it's from Redfin, California median price as of July 2023, and then New Jersey, and then right below that in red is actually the national price, and below that is the median price in Florida. So now the median price in Florida is trending with the national price, where historically, even just 2 or 3 years ago, it was actually below the national price. But given where people are moving from, for them, they're looking at these prices and they're like, okay, well, this is pretty good. They're going to be able to get way more house here in Florida than they're going to be able to get in those 2 or 3 other states that people are moving from. Let's drill down even more and look at the different destinations, particular destinations that people are moving from and into different destinations in Florida, very popular destinations, and we're going to compare the median price just to give you a better idea of what some of the cost savings are for those people who are making that transition. In the LA metropolitan area, the median price hovers right below $1 million. New York, and this is New York Metro, not just Manhattan, the price there is around $710,000. Miami metro area is going to be one of the most expensive places now to move to in Florida. The median price there is $623,000, still below LA and New York. Now let's look at Tampa. The Tampa price is coming in at $401,000. That's one of the reasons why Tampa is actually such a popular destination to move to. That's because it's a substantial city that we have here in Florida. It's very popular. It's on the Gulf Coast. It's close to the beaches, and there's lots of job opportunities. And so, starting moving out of a big city into a big city in Florida, Tampa is just a natural choice, especially when you're looking for a more affordable lifestyle. Now, another city on the Gulf Coast that is very popular, and that, according to many news articles, is the #1 place to move to, that is Sarasota, right? Sarasota is on the Gulf Coast. It's where I live as well. And the median price here is going to be a little bit higher than Tampa, but it's just an absolutely amazing place to live in. And so if you're interested in Sarasota, definitely check out some of the other videos that I have about the area. Number 2 is no state income tax, which is especially alluring for those people who are high earners, right? So there's 9 states in the United States where there's no state income tax. And those states include Texas, of course, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. Now, if somebody's looking to move somewhere where there's no state income tax, and they're also wanting to be in a much more tropical setting with beautiful beaches around them, there's really just 2 choices. You've got Texas and Florida. And Florida has one of the most beautiful beaches and warm climate year-round. Now, a lot of you say, well, how can people even afford buying in Florida now? It's gotten so expensive. Well, we've looked at the one chart, and we know where a lot of them are moving from. They're moving from areas where it's much more expensive to live in. And many of them that are moving down here are either retired or they're high salary earners. Now let's just look at the cost savings that a person with a higher income can have. And so I'm going to show you an example here, and that is for somebody that's making $100,000 in New York. New York state tax in this example would come out to around $5,000. And so yes, we're talking about the insurance crisis here and how homeowners insurance has gone up quite a bit for many of us. If you're moving from New York down to Florida, there's already your saving. It kind of wipes out the cost increase when it comes to homeowners insurance. Many people in New York, especially in Manhattan, which is where a lot of people are moving from, are making way more than $100,000. Let's just say you're someone that's making $500,000 in New York City, right? So how much would you be saving on state income tax? $31,000. Now assume you make $1 million in New York City, which is not unheard of. A lot of people in New York City make over $1 million easily. How much would they save? They'd be saving approximately $66,000. You can see very clearly why somebody that makes a high earnings is wanting to live somewhere where there's no state income tax. And that's because they're going to be able to save a lot of money that they can utilize to fund their ventures or to pump back into the business and so forth. Now I'm going to show you this one chart here, which shows you the cost of living and disposable incomes by state. Now Hawaii is going to have the highest cost of living, then Massachusetts, California, New York, New Jersey. And you can see California, New York, New Jersey, 3 places where people are moving from, are amongst one of the highest cost of living states. So where does Florida fit in all of this? We're going to look at an expanded version of that information. Florida came in at 21. Now other places that is an option for people to move to with warmer climate is Georgia and South Carolina, for example, which are going to be more affordable. But there's so many other factors that will influence a person's decision to move. And some of it has to do with cost of living, but there's other factors such as just being happy in a certain location and it really making sense with your lifestyle. That is a huge influence in people's decision to move to a place, to purchase in a place. And so we're going to get into that next. So let's talk about the beaches, which is really Florida's claim to fame here, I believe, right? The beaches and the palm trees. Well, you'll find beaches in South Carolina and you'll also find beaches in Georgia, but none of them are going to really feel like the Floridian beaches. In Florida, you have a choice between the Atlantic Ocean and beaches on the Gulf Coast. The beaches that are in Florida are just beaches made out of dreams almost. I just don't believe that the beaches in South Carolina and Georgia can even get close to the quality of beaches that we have here in Florida. Well, let's talk about the amount of coastline we have. In Florida, we have estimated 825 miles of coastline. We're going to compare that to Georgia, which is 100 miles, and South Carolina, which is 187 miles. So in Florida, you will find the most coastline in any state in the United States. Lots of beaches, lots of places to go to. Now, if you're somebody that lives, say, center Florida, maybe you don't want to live really close to the coast, but you want to be close enough to it to be able to travel to it, you're really not going to be any more than maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours away from a good beach. Now, a lot of people moving down to Florida are also nature lovers. They're not just about the beaches. They want to go to a nice state park, right? There's lots to see. You're close to nature. It feels good. There is more nature to pick from here in Florida than there is in South Carolina or Georgia. In Florida, we have 175 state parks and 11 national parks. South Carolina, for example, has 47 and 7 national parks. Georgia has 49 state parks and 11 national parks. Florida isn't just about the beaches, it's also about the state parks, and it's about all these major metropolitan areas and tourism destinations that even Floridians can take advantage of, and I certainly do. And that is a true value proposition of Florida, is that you don't really have to leave Florida to feel like you're going on vacation. You just hop in your car and off you go to Miami, wherever you're living. Maybe you want to head over to Tampa and feel kind of a big city experience. There's just so many different places in Florida that are going to make you feel like you're on vacation, but you didn't have to hop on a plane. It's also the weather, the warm weather that we have year round. A lot of buyers I've been talking to absolutely love that tropical weather that we get here in Florida. And you can see just by looking at this map from a visual standpoint, and it showcases the average temperature, and it's highlighted by this coloring code here, that the further south you get into Florida, the hotter or warmer it becomes. And if you compare it to South Carolina or Georgia, Florida, hands down, especially if you're on the southern side of Florida, is going to be the warmest area to live in. Florida typically has very mild winters. There may be a few days or maybe a few weeks where the average low, and that's typically at nighttime, it can dip into the 30s and 40s. That's relatively uncommon. But now let's go into South Carolina and Georgia. Typically, the temperatures there are going to vary by about 10 to 15 degrees, depending on where you live exactly in those two different states. And so it could get relatively cold in the wintertime, not to the point where you're going to see snow, right, unless you're at a higher elevation, but it may, for a lot of people, be just a little bit too cold, where if you're further south into Florida, you're still going to have kind of that tropical feel in the winter time. And many of you, especially those that are escaping the freezing cold in New York, in New Jersey, maybe from Canada, that's exactly what you want. You want the total opposite, especially in the winter time. And if that's you, then Florida is going to be for you. Many of you are going to want to live somewhere that is considered to be a safe place to live in. It's just natural. You want to make sure that your family is safe, that you're safe. And so each state will have places that are considered more safe to live in and some places that are not safe to live in. You're just going to want to make sure you do that type of homework, understanding what the safety level is. But there's general safety stats that we can look at. And so what I pulled up here is information from the cdc.gov. And what we're looking at here is the firearm mortality by state. What are the number of deaths per 100,000 total population? That's essentially what this chart showcases here. So the deeper ridge the red gets, the worse it actually is, the higher the mortality rate is by state. The lighter it is, then the less likely it is that you're going to get killed due to firearm, right? And so if we look at South Carolina, the death rate is 22 per 100,000 people. Florida is almost half of that, it's 14. Georgia is 20. So looking at this historical information then from the CDC, I believe it's fair enough to say that given this information, it is less likely that you're going to die due to a firearm issue in Florida versus in South Carolina or Georgia. But my recommendation is no matter where you move to, whether it's those three states or other states, make sure you understand what the crime rate is in a specific region. One of the best ways you can get that information is to literally call the police station and ask them for that feedback. I'm sure you've heard about the homeowners insurance crisis that we're dealing with right now in Florida. Some of it is driven by the fact that we've had quite a few hurricanes come through. There's been a lot of fraud, especially roof fraud, a lot of lawsuits that are really helping to increase these prices. Now, some insurance carriers have left the state because it just wasn't beneficial for them to be here. They weren't making money, and some of them have actually gone bankrupt. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future. Hopefully the government is going to step in the right way and really help out the homeowners insurance crisis and the homeowners that are currently suffering. Now, I will say this, that as somebody that has lived here for a while, I can attest to the fact that the prices have gone up in many cases quite a lot. And so if you're someone that's on a budget, it can be really, really tough to now figure out how to make up that extra $5,000 or $6,000, whatever that price increase was. I will also say this, that depending on where the home is, the prices may not have gone up that much. And if you're somebody that's looking to purchase right now, you can still get a pretty decent homeowners insurance quote, especially if you're away from the coast or you're purchasing a new construction home. I was in a recent situation, somebody bought a home in Lakewood Ranch. It was a really nice home, and their homeowners insurance came out to $2,500. Now, the buyer helped out in the area I live in, but further away from the coast, they also purchased a new construction home, and their homeowners insurance came out to about $1,500. So there's going to be lots of people in Florida that won't have a terrible story to tell you when it comes to homeowners insurance, and it really depends on the location, the type of home you have, the age of the roof, the age of the house, the quality of the house. There's just so much more to it. And so yes, I don't want to take away from the crisis. I myself actually used to pay just 3 years ago about $2,500, and it's now $5,500. I actually got a 10% price increase this year. Absolutely, lots of us have seen dramatic price increases, but I want you to know there's smart ways to purchase a home, especially if you're coming out of town and you have all these different options. Talk to your real estate agent, talk to a homeowner's insurance agent. Now, I will also say this, if you're someone that's living here right now and you're paying a high premium, maybe it's time to shop. Perhaps there's going to be another carrier out there that's going to be able to give you a better quote. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please contact me, send me an email, text me. I'm always here for you to answer any questions. If you're somebody that's looking to purchase, you're somebody that's looking to sell in the Sarasota County, Manatee County area, I would love to team up with you. Call me, email me anytime as well. I'm always here from you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in today, especially watching until the very end. I always appreciate it when you guys do. Take care.